Hello and welcome to the Thunderdome edition of the WrestleTalk podcast. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luke Owen DAD. Your normal in-person WrestleTalk podcast will be coming up. We're talking about the TNA situation. Is WWE killing TNA? And we'll have our review of AEW Dynamite. But this is a sort of cold open recorded bit the day after we recorded the full WrestleTalk podcast because Hulk Hogan has passed away.
At the age of 71. So we recorded the WrestleTalk podcast yesterday talking about WWE and TNA's relationship, but we thought we'd better do this here because this is probably the biggest bit of wrestling news that we have covered. I feel like this is... I only heard of the news. Well, I heard the news because I was doing some other stuff. I was posting our Fantastic Four review that we did for Cutscene. And then I was just like, I'll just have a little check of the comments on today's WrestleTalk news, see how it's gone down. And the first, there was 5 new comments that were just like, RIP Hulk Hogan. And I was like, whoa. Then check TMZ report. And I was like, oh man. The next thing I know, and I sent you a screen grab of this, I got a flood of text messages from people. I got text messages from people I haven't spoken to in ages, all text me being like, did you hear Hogan died? Did you hear? Like, Hogan's dead. My cousin texted me being like, is it real? Is it actually because it's from TMZ? Is it genuine news?
It was, brother?
Yes. It was like, I've heard from people I've not heard from in ages message me to say, did you hear that Hulk Hogan died?
Well, I think Hulk Hogan is the most famous professional wrestler to have ever lived. More even than The Rock, I would argue. Because Hulk Hogan, you can distill the man down to a mustache, like that gold mustache, and most people in the entire world would know that's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Because he transcended pro wrestling. He's the human or not, like the human element to him, and he's a very problematic individual. He is the most widely recognizable wrestling star and sort of led the boom period of 2 different promotions, the WWF, the rock and wrestling bit in the 80s, and then when he turned heel with the NWO in the mid-90s.
I think he not only led to boom periods for 2 different companies, he led to boom periods for 2 different decades because it is the 80s with the rock and wrestling and the rise of the WWF and Hulkamania and WrestleMania and the rock and wrestling connection and all this sort of stuff, the MTV era. But then in the 1990s, when he turns heel at Bash of the Beach 96, that really is what catapults the wrestling boom of the late 90s. And it's kind of what makes Vince McMahon go into fight or flight mode. And that could lead to the rise of Steve Austin in 98. There's an argument to be made that without Hogan turning heel and the NWO in WCW, there might not have been that big second wave for WWF in the late 90s because Vince would have needed to fight so much.
Yeah. And, as everything with Hogan, it's dark and light. He arguably killed 2 wrestling promotions as well. WCW, which he helped turn around in the mid-90s, and, of course, our beloved TNA in 2010 when him and Eric Bischoff got the book. But just to go back to how recognizable he is, you rather passively aggressively text me that picture because I was like, oh my God, Luke, have you heard? I'd just gone home. Have you heard Hulk Hogan's died? And you said, yeah. And then you sent me a picture of your phone screen with like 80 messages. Oh my God, Hulk Hogan's dead. Hulk Hogan's dead.
Not quite like that. I wasn't like, yeah, I've heard, Ollie, duh.
Yeah, I might have heard. But my dad, who rarely texts anyone about anything, and when he does, they're weird cryptic haikus. Oh, I saw a beautiful sparrow today. Like, what? You haven't texted me in 2 weeks. But he just texts me, Hulk Hogan's dead. Nothing.
That's it.
So, he is. But that shows how he penetrated every generation of pop culture awareness. My dad does not know what's going on in pop culture, even in his own age, I think. But because of Hogan knows best, I think in the noughties.
Oh, really?
Which is weird. Because me and my sister used to watch that all the time. Same with the Osbournes. It's weird that Ozzy Osbourne and Hogan have passed away the same week. Not only both kind of linked to wrestling with Ozzy as a Hall of Famer, but also they were the pioneers, number 1 and number 2, I would say, of the celebrity fly-on-the-wall reality show format.
Yeah, it's good. I never even thought of it that way, but you're probably right because I think he is inarguably the most recognizable wrestler of all time. I think I mean, you said at the top of the show, but I completely agree. I think he's the most famous wrestler ever. And I think you can make the argument for The Rock, and depending on your age, if you say to people on the streets, depending on their age, they might say The Undertaker or Austin, or they might say John Cena. But I think Hogan is above every single one of those. And that is because he was such a, he was the poster child of the WWF for so long in that really big boom period of the 80s and into the 90s. He was front cover on all those video games. He was front cover on magazines. He was a movie star. He was in Rocky 3. And, I said this in the video I did yesterday. I couldn't remember the name of the TV show that he did. And I called it Trouble in Paradise. But that's Kofi Kingston's finish. His show was called Thunder in Paradise, which was the name of the boat that they used. But yeah, Thunder in Paradise. But yeah, Mr. Nanny, Suburban Commando, like he ate Gremlins 2 as a cameo in there. He is
an actor.
Yeah.
That very subtle, like a lot of pro wrestlers have made the transition. He was the first, like really. I know, like Terry Funk would have done things, but in terms of like a draw in cinema as well, he did pave the way for actually good on-screen performances from The Rock and Batista and the likes.
He was given leading roles in movies because he was Hulk Hogan, and you could put Hulk Hogan's name on a poster, and people, well, I mean, actually, they didn't end up going to see them because he was in bad movies. But the idea was that people would go and see them. And it's been sort of about 12 hours or so to kind of process this news and to kind of piece all of these things together, because you're right, like problematic is a good word to use, controversial is another word to use, because I think the last 10 years has kind of put a bit of a dark cloud over the legacy of Hulk Hogan. It's worth noting that the last wrestling appearance he's ever going to have, he was booed out of the building by WWE fans. WWE, the company that he really did help create, he was booed out of the building by the WWE audience because they did not want to see him there. And I think I've now figured out that there are 4 versions of Hulk Hogan. There's Hulk Hogan the wrestler, Terry Bollea, the real life person.
The penis size is key.
There's Hulk Hogan, the backstage politician wrestler, and there's the Hulk Hogan myth that Terry Bollea created. Like, those are the 4 different versions of Hulk Hogan.
The last one being the one that did everything that the first character one did, but with about 20% more in attendance.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's more people that he like. That last one there was going to be the bass player for Metallica. That last one there was going to have the George Foreman grill before he turned it down. That's the myth of he had Andre wasn't going to go up for that body slam, brother. Like, that's the 4th Hulk Hogan there. But as the 3rd Hulk Hogan, I think, is the one that I've always been the most interested in, the backstage politician Hulk Hogan. That doesn't work for me, brother. Hulk Hogan. They go the Bash at the Beach 2000 Hulk Hogan. But my wrestling journey is I got into wrestling in the year 2000 when really his style was on the decline anyway. But the first bit of wrestling I saw was Battle Royal at the Royal Albert Hall on a VHS tape, and he wasn't there for it. But I still knew the name Hulk Hogan. Like, it was like that was a name that I knew. So, but when I got into wrestling, and then I started getting into really getting into the backstage drama and politics of backstage and listening to shoot interviews in the mid 2000s, it was always stories about Hogan. Always stories about that politician Hulk Hogan, brother, and all the things he did. Kevin Nash saying like he's the greatest wrestler of all time. He made the most money. Like, that's the version of Hulk Hogan that sort of like lives in my mind.
Yeah, I also missed that Hulk Hogan era. I think my first introduction to Hogan was probably through movies, just watching them on VHS as a kid. But when I get into wrestling, so 99, 2000, 2001, it's Hogan coming in. Well, that's 02, isn't it? For WrestleMania 18. I just heard of the legend, and when I watched WCW, which I did quite a fair bit, it was only Thunder. It was never Nitro. So I don't know how much Hogan was on that show.
Not a lot, brother.
Yeah. But then when he came in with the NWO, I was like, oh, this is a mythical force, and they're in WWE. I didn't really know at the time what was happening, but I knew it was big. But that match against The Rock, like, if you ask me what is your pinnacle Hulk Hogan wrestling memory, because I didn't do the the rock and wrestling bit in the 80s, and I loved the heel turn angle in Bash on the Beach, but I didn't live through it. But I lived through Hulk Hogan and The Rock, and it is just, it's one of the best wrestling matches of all time. I know it doesn't
Really
have
is.
Brian Danielson-esque technical mat work. It is like the most sports entertainment match you could ever get.
He got so much out of so little. Like that was almost like the magic of Hogan's ability is that
Mm.
he got so much out of like not taking any bumps. Like that was the Hogan skill was like he won a lot and didn't take a lot of moves.
But what I really, and I've thought about this a lot over the last 12 hours, what I really appreciate right now about that match is Hogan is part of the equation. And it's Rock's there. Rock's a huge part of it. But what is the most important part of that match? It's the way the fans receive him.
Mhm.
Because if the fans, the Toronto crowd, don't all just go, he's our childhood and he's back in our promotion of WWF, that match doesn't have that magic aura to it. So Hogan and Hogan sort of leans into that, and he hulks up, and it's not just a great wrestling moment. It is 18,000 people or whatever the capacity was for WrestleMania 18. It's all those people reconnecting with their childhood through the character of Hulk Hogan. Even though he's older, he's doing the moveset again. And that's, there's a lot of things to say about Hulk Hogan, the person. I don't really want to go into that the day of his passing. But we are aware of it. We've spoken about that for the last 10 years. What I
Yeah.
think is interesting to explore now is what the character means to everyone. Because really, I think that's what a lot of people who aren't his direct family and friends are mourning. It is the loss of the mythical figure that is Hulk Hogan. It's that number 1 and number 4 that you laid out in your characterizations.
Yeah, it's you can't ignore the last 10 years of Hogan's legacy. It's impossible to do. But I think you're right. Like this is not the time to play. Also, we have been talking about it for the last 10 years. It's we covered the time when he apologized to the WWE locker room, which was sorry I got caught.
And don't get caught either.
Yeah, watch what you're saying, kids, because there might be someone taping you sleeping with their wife. So yeah, like there's so much to be said about Hogan. But it's funny when I think back on my like wrestling journey as a fan is the day I stopped watching wrestling. The first time I stopped watching wrestling, actually, it's the only time I watched wrestling, was when he won the title in '02 when he beat the Undertaker for the title, and I went, "Nah, that's enough for me now." Like all my friends have stopped watching, and I think this is the final nail in my fandom coffin. I'm done, thanks.
Yeah, say that didn't turn me off at the time, but in TNA it did. No, I lived through Mick Foley as the champion, and
Yeah.
I loved it, and all these awful booking decisions they made. But it was Hogan coming in and Fortune that really, really made me turn off.
Oh, Immortal! What a group! And I mean, for me, it was giving Abyss his WWE Hall of Fame ring that I think like gave him Green Lantern powers or something. It was like it was the weird. It made him turn into Hulk Hogan. It was the weirdest thing. Like I remember those stories that he always said like Abyss that could be our John Cena. I was like Abyss. Like I love Abyss, but like AJ Styles is right there. I think he could be your John Cena if we're being honest here. But the other thing for Hogan, and it only really occurred to me when I was talking to my wife about this, like last night when I got home and she was like, how are you feeling about all of this? And I said that it's mad because I did that like 13-minute WrestleTalk news video yesterday. Thank you for all the kind comments that people sent me about that as well, by the way. A few people said they're going to unsubscribe because I was callous in the video and I was uncaring or something along those lines. But a lot of people reached out to me to say that they enjoyed the video. But I think the thing that surprised me the most in that 13 minutes that I did is I was able to basically recount his entire wrestling career from memory. I don't think I can do that for any other wrestler. Like if you were, I can do it for like a handful of people, but like exact years, exact pay-per-views where moments happen that create these iconic things. And I just did it all off the top of my noggin. I mean, I forgot Thunder in Paradise because I couldn't remember the name of it, but I was broadly there. But that's Hulk Hogan. It's because he is not just only iconic in terms of what he did for the wrestling, he's iconic in how much he has been written about and spoken about, and so much has been written and said, and DVD documentaries and things like that. It's just he has got a career that I think most people watching this video can probably recount from memory.
And I bet those other people you can recount from memory, it's because they're your favorite wrestlers. It's Raven, it's this person, it's that person. But I don't think Hulk Hogan is anyone's favorite wrestler now.
Well, yeah. I suppose there will be people like looking at the outpouring of sort of emotion that came from his passing yesterday. There are a lot of people just like, he was my first favorite wrestler. He was my first, the guy I first fell in love with, and then I became a Bret Hart guy or a Shawn Michaels guy or something along those lines, or a Steve Austin guy. But there or a Goldberg. Say again.
He's a gateway drug.
In many ways he was. Certainly if you were like I think people of our generation as well, of our certain vintage, who got into wrestling in that like late 80s or mid 80s to late 80s period, he probably was people's first favorite wrestler. But then they might become like, actually no, then I got into the Ultimate Warrior after that. But he is like certainly an iconic favorite wrestler. But I don't think anyone, because they're like, I think maybe it was like, he's got my favorite matches, but probably because, like you said, for WrestleMania X8, it's more for the pomp and circumstance and the aura that it creates, as opposed to actual spots, because the actual spots in that WrestleMania X8 match is just the headlock spot and Hogan posing for all the cameras.
Well, I will warn everyone, because their social media feeds, I expect, will be littered for the next 2 weeks of people posting clips of Hogan in Japan doing head scissor takedowns and things. And he could wrestle.
He could wrestle. He could. But but he knew he didn't have to, because he was Hulk Hogan. Like he was all about the entrance, and all he had to do was just be beaten down, not take any bumps, just go down to one knee while people punch him or throw him into the corner, and then he can just like Hulk up, do the point, punch, leg drop, big boot, leg drop, 1, 2, 3, Dunzo Dunzarelli, we're out of here. Like, and he made that his entire career. It's also remarkable as well, like that sort of politician, the number 3 of the Hoganisms, is like, I think I need to probably look this up, but there's only about like 10 people that ever beat him clean. Like he's like in his entire career, there's like people beat him, but through shenanigans and interference. There's like a very small group of people that just beat him. And that's because he's Hulk Hogan, and that doesn't work for me, brother.
Are you counting Ultimate Warrior pinning him, but Hogan kicks out like almost on the 3?
Exactly. That's kind of, that's the aura of Hulk Hogan. It's does WWF become as big as it does without Hogan? Probably not. Like, it might have still become big, but I don't think it would become as big of a juggernaut as it was. And I was thinking on the I'm going to just little start with brag here. Coming back from the gym this morning, and working on these guns. And I would say again,
taking your vitamins.
I've not actually taken any vitamins or said any prayers this morning, I'm afraid. But I was thinking, like, if you were to, what is the Mount Rushmore of WWF? And I think I would say it's probably Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, and Nick Khan. Those are probably the 4 most influential figures within the WWF's history.
Oh, come on. It's Triple H rather than Nick Khan.
No, it's Nick Khan. Come on now. Nick Khan has done, like, for business wise, Nick Khan has done more for business wise for WWE than Triple H has done in this creative role.
What a bunch of what a great Mount Rushmore, though. What a really totally fine group of people.
Not problematic group of people whatsoever.
But yeah, R.I.P. Hulk Hogan and R.I.P. Terry Bollea as well, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be more news to come from it. This has sort of been, I don't want to say it's been a long time coming, but there's been a lot of news. It was like the reports he's on his death. Well, I was Bubba the Love Sponge, very much a big name within the controversy of Hulk Hogan. He was like, oh, he's on his deathbed, and then Jimmy Hart being like, no, he's fine. He's absolutely fine. It's just he's had a neck surgery, but clearly complications were had. I'm sure more details will come as time goes on. But yeah, passing away at the age of 71, which it's no age at all, but considering the class of wrestlers he came from, most of them died before they were 50. So if anything, they had a really good innings. It's not to make light of it, but so that's, we just wanted to open with this, but we're now going to throw to yesterday Ollie and Luke, wearing different clothes and together in studio, talking about WWE and their relationship with TNA. We probably will talk about Hogan a little bit in there, but just be aware that obviously it was recorded hours and hours and hours before the news came out that he passed away. I don't think we say anything too disparaging, but we do talk about how he killed TNA.
So, we've already said that in this part.
We've said that in this bit as well. So yeah, we'll throw to old us now.
Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast here every Tuesday and Friday, which you can get on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and now we're very excited to announce if you fill up your coffee card when you get 10 stamps from buying cups of coffee from 10 cups of coffee, you can then download this podcast from your local coffee shop.
I actually got an Instagram DM from someone who said, I'm struggling to find the WrestleTalk news on iTunes. And I was trying to work out whether or not they were leaning into this joke, but or they were just looking for, because we do load the WrestleTalk news as a podcast, and it's available on Apple Podcasts. So I wasn't sure which one it was. I'm not quite sure how to respond to them yet.
Some people hate this running gag. Others are like, let's keep it. Yeah. So let's see how long it takes to run it into the ground.
You also could have had, it's going to be replacing WWE Speed on Twitter.
I know, mourning the loss of WWE Speed potentially.
Yeah, the bus that couldn't slow down. It's not been on for 2 weeks. I had a look. I didn't even know how, was it shown on WWE's Twitter accounts? Or do they have like a separate Twitter account for it?
I don't know.
But I found the hashtag, I went through the hashtag, and there were like legit 5 people that were like, where's Speed this week? There wasn't one last week either.
Where is that 3 minutes of free content I watch on Twitter? X, whatever it is now. Yes, please subscribe everywhere and leave your comments down below if you're watching this on YouTube. And send in some nice things for our sort of mailbag. We're in the comments on Spotify and YouTube. And we'll do our best to read out the funniest or most interesting ones.
And do you want to quickly address the elephant in the room before we move on?
Yeah, I'm deathly sick. I threw up on the way here today. I'm on what my friend calls PEDs.
Yeah.
Performance enhancing drugs, ibuprofen, paracetamol, caffeine. This thing called ketamine.
Are you doing the 2-hour double up?
Yeah.
So you like 2 hours paracetamol, 2 hours ibuprofen, then after that 2 hours you can do the paracetamol because it's been 4 but since your last one.
I didn't do that yesterday. I just downed all the pills at once. And that's how I got through our Justice League review.
Which we haven't finished yet.
No, I need to do that after this. And we're reviewing Fantastic Four today as we're watching this. So you can head over to Cutscene to watch that. That should have already gone live.
But
yes, I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luke Owen, DAD. And on this episode of the WrestleTalk podcast, we will be, of course, talking about AEW Dynamite.
Yeah, but we're going to kick things off talking about the fallout from TNA Slammiversary. A very good show, I wanted to add. I very much enjoyed Slammiversary. The Leon Slater Moose match was excellent. I actually really enjoyed the ladder match as well with the top dollar bump notwithstanding, which is one of the worst bumps I've ever seen.
Me and Luke keep rewatching this in the office. And it's the face of AJ Francis. He somehow looks right at the camera the moment it goes fully wrong.
You can freeze it to be like, you're probably wondering how I got here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the worst. I am stunned that he did not shatter not only all of his legs, but future legs that will replace the shattered legs that he shattered doing this ladder bump.
And his dick.
Well, did you hear? So Fightful, they reached out to him, and that was what he said. Big dick equals cushion. That's why.
Oh, wow.
That's why he survived that ladder bump.
He landed on the dick.
He landed on his massive knob, and that is why he's not hurt now.
I suppose that's okay to land on the dick. If you land on your balls, ooh, that spreads to the stomach pretty fast, doesn't it?
You feel that one in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are going to be talking about the fallout of Slammiversary, which saw JC Jane win the TNA Knockouts Championship from Masha Slamovich, and Trick Williams retained the TNA title, even though a lot of people went into that show expecting Mike Santana to walk out as TNA champion, which means that both of their top titles are held by NXT stars.
I'm really happy for Mike Santana, just as a tangent. Obviously, Joe Hendry was the other part of that three-way, and he lost the belt to Trick Williams in the first place when Trick turned heel a couple of months ago. But the rise of Mike Santana has been really rewarding to see, because we've been following that guy really avidly since he was in Impact, which is TNA, as the new LAX, then he went to AEW and he was great. Had a 5-star match.
Yeah.
And then he started to cut these amazing promos. You're like, this guy is going to be a breakout singles star. But for AEW reasons, he never really broke out of that mold. Yeah. He bet on himself. He went to Impact, TNA, keep getting that wrong, and he has become one of the more over main eventers in the company, to the extent where everyone in his home town, really, where this was held, Slammiversary, they're like, put the belt on the guy.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't go into the show thinking there was a chance he was going to win, because it's a hometown thing. It's going to be TNA's biggest show they've ever done. And it was, that it beat the lockdown 2013 attendance. Is that right? Of like 7,200 people. Like, they announced that's the number they got. I don't know if it's the official number that they got. It was only set up for that, but I don't think they fully got that sort of number. But either way, biggest show they have done in forever. And it would have been a great time to belt up Mike Santana. But yeah, to echo what you just said then, I said this on the WrestleTalk News a couple of weeks back. I'm just thrilled for the guy. Because you and I have been like such big fans of Mike Santana. And when they were proud and powerful in AEW, we're like, why isn't more of the tag division built around like these guys and the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks? Like, have them do all of their stuff. And then when they had their falling out and he fell out with Eddie Kingston and Ortiz, push him as a singles guy. Because he's so good. And he was doing those amazing promos that just sadly just never went anywhere. He was lost in the Rampage vortex.
And this is why it's important to have more wrestling promotions. He obviously wasn't going to make it in AEW because there was just a cap on him for some reason. WWE, NXT, maybe he could have found some success there, but go to a sort of smaller promotion. And he rose to the top pretty quickly because he's very, very talented. So yeah, that sort of leads us into, promotions.
Yeah.
Who is affiliated with who? Because while we both enjoyed Slammiversary, we are TNA through and through.
TNA marks.
If you cut us deep enough, I think you'll find, there's AEW on the top. That's I would say our current favourite promotion. Then there's our WWF childhood and stuff. But really, at the core of both of us is mid-noughties TNA.
Exactly, yeah. If it's TNA 2004, and I might push that to 2003, but really Impact Zone era 2004 through to 2010, before Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan ruined that promotion for a number of years. And it took them nearly 15 years to recover from the damage that Hogan and Bischoff did to them. Like, it's my jam. That is my jam, that jam. That would be my comfort watch for wrestling.
I was thinking about this on the way in, and that is a very different company to 2025 Slammiversary. There's no Dixie Carter. There's no Vince Russo.
There's no Billy Corgan.
I think it's only Kaz.
Yeah, Frankie
There's
Kazarian.
no Jeremy Borash. There's no Scott D'Amore anymore. He was kicked out last year.
No Gail Kim.
It's like, it is just Kaz. All of the parts of the
and
broom.
Eric Young.
Oh, yes, Eric Young.
Because he was on the pre-show.
Well. All of the parts of TNA have been changed from the early days of TNA, Jeff Jarrett TNA.
Yeah.
Yet, there is still something within its DNA that still makes it TNA.
It will always be Trigger's broom.
Yeah.
It can have a new handle. It can have a new brush. It will always be Trigger's broom.
And when we say it's going to be TNA, it's both extremes, where Leon Slater, for instance, one of the most exciting wrestlers working today, and he puts on an amazing X Division match. But also, all the production errors, leaning way too much on the stars of the past, and, as we'll get into now, please like us, WWE.
Yeah, trusting the wrong people.
Making clear mistakes that will bite them in the ass long term.
Well, we'll get into that, because there is certainly an argument to be made that this partnership with WWE is not a mistake. But I do feel like that was the feeling coming out of the show, was that this partnership with WWE is hurting TNA. It is damaging the TNA brand.
A feeling from a portion of people. A very vocal portion.
Oh, of course, yeah. But like, Zack Snyder, I would say, about Batman v Superman, it was just the vocal minority that didn't like Batman v Superman. The overwhelming majority loved that movie. That explains its bad box office performance. But it's, that's going to cutscene for that. So, coming out of this show, JC Jane is the new Knockouts champion, and Trick Williams is the TNA World Champion. He retained the title over Mike Santana in his hometown, no less, as well. It looked like Mike was going to have the match won, but Trick ended up pinning Joe.
Quite a lame finish for such a big pay-per-view.
Yeah, lame finish would be. Well, Jack, that's very... You cut TNA to its core. Lame finishes, lame main event finishes will always be there. But Jeff Jarrett's just like in the background, be like, doop, doop, doop. He's going to get that in there. Swinging a guitar. Let's keep down Monty Brown. Let's keep down. And it's, that is TNA to its core, is not knowing the right time to pull the trigger on someone. Like, hey, we've got a top guy here. Let's wait to put the title on him. Let's wait till they cool off, then put the belt on them.
But it's mostly this homegrown guy who's organically gone over, or this WWE mid-carder. And every time, whether it's, the NXT crossover or it's Nick Nemeth, they're going to go for the WWE mid-carder.
Yeah, or Kurt Angle or Sting. Like you're going back in the days. But, they didn't pull the trigger on Samoa Joe when they should have done. Didn't do it on Jeff Hardy when they should have done. Didn't do it on Monty Brown when they should have done. There's like a litany of guys in TNA history that should have been world champion at a specific... They even did it with AJ. Like AJ, every time they should have put the belt on AJ, they just kept it on Jeff Jarrett. So this is, again, it should come as no surprise that Trick Williams is still the TNA champion. So there was that kind of feeling coming out of this show. And I don't think it was slightly helped then by the following NXT episodes. And granted, should NXT be doing a lot of like TNA storylines when it's the NXT show? But on that show, JC Jane was there just setting up the challenges for her NXT Women's Championship in Lash Legend and Jada Parker. And Trick Williams got chokeslammed by The Undertaker because he's feuding with LFG, I guess.
It's the rub.
Well, that's it. And I did make that joke. I was like, and then someone was like, oh, what do you want to do? Beat up The Undertaker? I was like, no, just don't do that segment. Like, you don't have to do a segment where Trick Williams, the TNA World Champion, gets chokeslammed and made to look like an absolute dweeb by The Undertaker.
He's also the NXT champion.
Trick's not, no. No, he's the TNA champion.
Who's the NXT champ? Oh, God, Obafemi is. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Sorry. He was in the main event of that show.
Fart there. Wow.
That is the illness kicking in there. I saw the little cock turning, that little buffer wheel.
Yeah. Not firing on all mental cylinders today.
No. So, yeah, it didn't make the TNA champion look particularly great. But, it's the WWE way. That is, you got the rub by being in the ring with The Undertaker. So... Not a great follow-up to it, but I still think the majority of this comes from, but they should have, why the NXT guys have got two of their top titles. And we kind of talked about this on the Raw podcast, but for me, I don't see this as any form of negativity at all, because it's clearly just, they win the titles back at Bound for Glory, which is their WrestleMania. Like, that is their big end show. That is their year-ending show, although it's in October. That is the calendar year end for TNA.
Yeah, that is quite a while away.
It's October.
This is July, August, September, October. It's a whole 3 months away. But yeah, I think, so what happened is a portion of the TNA fan base who were really behind Mike Santana winning, who I think understandably were maybe not upset with the fact that you've got these two NXT people who are top NXT stars. It's not like they put the world titles for men and women on NXT mid-carders. Like, these are
top guys.
These are top guys for NXT. But they
didn't put on Lexus King.
Yes, yeah. No offense to Lexus King. But some offense. I don't think the creative was super exciting around that. No. Yeah, you've got the end of Slammiversary. Oh, they're both on NXT, guys. We need to save TNA. But it's not part of this really cool NXT invasion angle.
No.
There's not this super faction that's formed that cheated Mike Santana out of the win at the end. It was just Trick stealing a win, really. Did you hear about JBL?
Yeah, his plans got cancelled, apparently. Like, he was going to do some stuff with TNA, and then and he actually did do angles with TNA, and then they were like, no, we're just not doing them anymore.
He said in his interview that he was set up for a major angle at this show in the main event, presumably.
Oh, I missed that bit of it.
But you wouldn't believe what was going to happen. But the guy who had arranged it is now gone. And I assume that means not Scott D'Amore last January, but the other TNA head who was removed in like March, April time.
The one who said, I don't think we should have our TNA World Champion be pinned on TV, on WWE TV by The Miz. Yeah. And they were like, do you know what, Anthony? Get out of here. You don't see the bigger picture.
Yeah, because heads of TNA right now are kind of like that 2019 to 2022 era of British prime ministers, where I've actually lost track. I know it's a guy called Carlos Silva now who's taken over, but then there was a guy in the middle who probably made these JBL plans. He seemed to be pushing more for TNA to be more of its own thing, enhanced by NXT, but let's focus on growing our own people.
Yeah.
So, of course, he got the boot.
Of course, yeah. You don't see the TNA way. Like, you're not one of us.
And before then, it was Scott D'Amore, who, was really behind the whole resurgence of TNA, the rebranding to the name TNA.
He's the guy that got them their biggest buy rates.
Yeah.
Like, this is a pre-WWE partnership. He had that massive buy rate for them with Hard to Kill in 2023. It was
2024.
2024, yeah. Oh, God, it was. Like, he really was the guy. I would say Scott D'Amore did more for TNA than pretty much anyone has done for the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm. But he wanted more money from TNA's parent company, Anthem, to grow TNA, to make serious plays for guys like Will Ospreay before he went to AEW. For CM Punk, apparently, at one point. But Anthem were like, no. We're going to make a partnership with WWE. And that's the direction they went. They had this partnership through 2024, and that was formalized in January 2025. And we're now 6 months into this, and it's a multi-year partnership, they described. And just to recap what's happened throughout this relationship so far, that Roxanne Perez beat the TNA Knockouts champion, Jordan Grace, some point last year. NXT champion Ethan Page kicked TNA World Champion Joe Hendry in the dick to beat him. Mm-hmm. That was at No Mercy last year. Of course, Jordan Grace then left TNA to go and sign with NXT. So one of their top stars. Yeah. I won't say stolen, but has been fed.
Was always on the path to.
Then we got Joe Hendry showing up in the Royal Rumble as TNA World Champion. He was chucked out in under 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. He didn't even last a full entry. But hey, he was thrown out by Roman Reigns.
So, got the rub there.
NXT champion Obafemi beat TNA X Division champion Moose at Roadblock.
Yeah.
Which I don't so much mind because the X Division is the mid-card belt.
And also, it was for the NXT championship. So I fully didn't expect Moose to win that match.
Well, But when you lay it all out, there is it is definitely a one-sided
100%,
booking pattern. Randy Orton squashed TNA World Champion Joe Hendry.
You are missing the bigger picture there, Ollie. Joe Hendry was at WrestleMania in a match with Randy Orton, and he got a big pop, and he got hit with the RKO. It did so much wonders for Joe Hendry that he got pinned in the three-way match at Slammiversary, and it was actually probably the third most over thing in that match.
Yes. I think with months of hindsight, I don't think the WrestleMania appearance help Joe Hendry. Also, this isn't in my notes, but do you remember it was like, Joe Hendry got that spot, but in return, I think it was for that, it might have been for another thing. In return, TNA is going to get a WWE superstar who has their own coach. As in, it's a star to the level where they have their own touring bus.
Yeah.
Which are very few people. That's Punk. That's Cody. But it was Trick Williams.
Does he have his own touring bus?
Maybe he's got a minivan.
Or maybe like NXT has its own touring bus. Mm-hmm. And like, they all just, sleep in it or whatever they do, wherever they stay.
But that was the report. And it's like, okay, but that wasn't followed up on fully.
But this happened with the AAA announcement as well. Like, they put on that, they announced at WrestleMania that they've purchased AAA, and they put up that graphic being like, we're doing Worlds Collide. And I was like, oh man, they're doing a AAA WWE crossover. And I was like, no, they're doing a AAA NXT crossover. And while this is a TNA WWE partnership, it is really just a TNA NXT partnership. Like WWE clearly see them at a level, and that level is the developmental brand of WWE. You're not getting TNA stars appearing on Monday Night Raw. Although, actually, that was one of the pitches that they wanted to do, because they wanted Joe Hendry to come in and lose to The Miz on Raw while he was champion.
Also on Worlds Collide, they did have El Grande Americano and Dominic Mysterio. Well, but I do agree, it is at a level.
Yeah, and Dom was just in the crowd to set up a match for Money in the Bank, where he then beat Octagon Jr. in about 6 minutes.
Trick Williams beat Joe Hendry for the TNA World title. That was at Battleground the other month. And of course, at Slammiversary, Trick retained and JC Jane beat Masha Slamovich to become the TNA Knockouts champion. So when you lay it all down like that, it is an incredibly one-sided booking pattern where WWE stars or NXT stars are beating the top guys in TNA, or they're just used for squash match spots on the main roster. And understandably, I think the TNA diehards went to Cage Match, which is sort of the Rotten Tomatoes of wrestling, and they review bombed the pretty good show Slammiversary.
I really enjoyed it.
To one of the worst pay-per-views of all time. It had an average score of like 2.94. That's since gone up. But it was so bad that Cage Match had to put out a statement saying, okay, well, tribalism is what it is, so we've had to put in new rules for any TNA matches or shows where essentially there are limits on the accounts that can score those shows.
Yeah, because like the TNA diehards are the real vocal ones who are seeing the pattern that you just laid out there as WWE are killing TNA, or the prevailing theory that WWE just want to buy TNA, or in some cases have pretty much already have bought TNA. Well, I think Sean Ross Sapp had a really interesting thing to say about this. This was ages ago when he said this, and probably said it again recently, but it was like, I don't see the WWE going to buy TNA because they've just come out of like a monopoly lawsuit with MLW, and the way to avoid yourself looking like a monopoly is not buying lots of promotions.
Well, because you've brought that up, there was an interesting thing from Romy Glazer,
yes,
who was one of the people let go earlier this year, along with whatever the guy's name. I can't remember his name.
Was it Anthony Sassoni or something like that?
No, I don't know.
Was he one of the other guys? Was he the Liz Truss of?
Yes, but she sort of worked behind the scenes on the TNA Plus streaming platform, which has done quite well. So she said on the Twitter, I've been on the buy side of 3 acquisitions and the sell side of 2, and I'm not totally sold that WWE is buying TNA. Yes, partnerships often test fit, so this idea that the multi-year partnership is actually a way to see if WWE should just buy TNA outright. But back to Romy. But if they were buying, why keep boosting TNA and inflating the price? But for a $1.4 billion company, even a $20 million upside is a rounding error. This all can't just be to stick it to AEW... ... Right?
So that actually is... I mean, do we want to talk about that bit now, or do we want to talk about the comparison piece that a lot of people do bring up about this, which is that like, oh yeah, like AEW treated Impact better than WWE treat them?
Well, I'll use that to... So there has been an equivocal success with this partnership, and that's maybe what the TNA diehards are missing. The Impact TV ratings have increased on average. Still very low. We're only talking 100,000 viewers a week. But Slammiversary was their record ever attendance in North America.
Massive show.
7,623 fans in attendance was the number. That beats 7,200, which was the record set at 2013. 2,500 of those tickets were shifted in the days before Slammiversary with the announcement that AJ Styles is coming in for the show.
Yeah, so that is a WWE star appearing on this show, boosting ticket sales. A great walk-up for it. And Evolution saw a good walk-up for it as well. Like, that is a sign of, on the day, people were like, do you know what? Actually, no, I should go to this. I am going to go to this show. It's in town. I will go.
And it was a great moment. And I think that is the perfect use of a WWE partnership, because they brought in AJ, they got a huge buy rate, and then they tried to transfer all that attention onto the new guy. AJ Styles went into the ring and endorsed the new youngest ever X Division champion, Leon Slater.
Yeah, which is like, what a mad fact that is as well. The person who he has beaten to become the youngest was Amazing Red, who I think was 23 when he won that title, and TNA has existed longer than Amazing Red was alive when he won the X Division Championship. That is just how much of a cockroach TNA really is. It is hard to kill.
And that's why they've got a pay-per-view named after that. So they are trying to get a new TV rights deal.
Yeah.
Carlos Silva has said recently, he's the Anthem Sports president, so the de facto controller of TNA. We are regularly being featured on every major WWE and NXT platform. PLEs, as well as weekly programming on the CW and their other broadcast outlets like Peacock. This has resulted in a huge television audience lift for us, along with all the social media support we get from them. Take this with a pinch of salt. The numbers aren't that much of an increase. I guess it is an increase, but they were doing such small numbers before.
Yeah.
But Carlos is promoting the brand.
He's
also trying to get a deal.
But it's a small channel as well. So like any form of increase on there is going to feel like a massive increase because the numbers it's available to get to are so limited.
So currently, TNA airs on an Anthem-owned network, which is Access.
And that's because TNA was, for like 5 years, well, actually 10 years or so, just bouncing between lots of networks and stuff. Like they lost the Spike deal, and then they were just, from it was like Pop TV and Destination America, like during all the Billy Corgan, Dixie Carter years. And then they were just like, at one point they were like a TV listings channel. You know, there was just like this, that, and the other. And eventually when they were bought by Anthem, Anthem just bought a TV station. It was like, we've now got a permanent home.
Yeah.
We're going to put you on TV.
Which is what got New Japan ultimately kicked off that same channel. So Carlos Silva then outlines what he wants. We want to go live 52 weeks a year. So at the moment, they don't do live shows. They do batch pre-recordings for $10 million. They're looking for a $10 million deal. That's about $200,000 an episode, I've worked it out as. Usually, when we're live, we're doing around 100,000 household viewers. A weekly number between 250 to 500,000 in terms of Nielsen-esque P2 plus households is perfectly realistic on a network in 40 to 50 million homes.
Yeah. So what he's saying there, like when you think about the P2 stuff that he's adding in there, he's talking about overall viewership across a week. So when you look at like AEW numbers on the WB stuff, and actually when Raw used to be on USA Network, you would look at like the overnight thing and be like, it got 1.5 million views, or for AEW, it's like they got 650,000 views for this episode. But what he's talking about there is like across the entire week. And AEW and WWE often talk about this as well. It's like, yeah, it got 650,000 views for this episode, but across the week it actually got over 1 million viewers because people watch it on DVR, watch it on catch up and things like that, and then you add in streaming numbers on top of AEW. So that is kind of what he's talking about there. It's like across a week you could get upwards of 500,000 views, because I think otherwise, I think you have to say that, because otherwise that sounds like an insane thing to say, to go from 100,000 views to 500,000.
Yeah, if we just go
live, which actually that's actually kind of an Eric Bischoff play, because him and Hogan were just like, man, if we just went to Mondays, we'd beat WWE. If we only went to Mondays, we would double our viewership for us. And if anything, what it did was absolutely murderize their viewership numbers, because they went head to head with Monday Night Raw, because it turns out they're really bad at wrestling business.
Again, Silva is trying to say things to get interest in the TNA product. So take it with a pinch of salt. But I do think it's a false equivalence, because you can look at the live episode specials that TNA have done over the last couple of years, and they have significantly increased over their average viewership. I don't think that's because it's live, because we've actually seen over the last 5 years that pre-recorded episodes don't really make a difference for stuff like Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, or even Dynamite and Collision.
Yeah, because they have a hardcore viewership.
Yeah, it doesn't actually change things as much as you'd think. What I think drives those to success is because they're specials.
Yeah.
That they put a lot more effort into those episodes. They got bigger matches.
And oftentimes have NXT stars on them.
Yes, exactly. But those numbers, 250 to 500,000 for Impact every week, I would say is insane. What do you think of? But bearing in mind, Collision, granted it's on a Saturday, does about 300,000 viewers.
Yeah. I don't think it is, again, across a week, where absolutely I think it could be plausible, in the same way that AEW can get over 1 million viewers across a week. But as a sort of a live viewer thing, and like I know across a 24-hour period, no. I think it can get up to 200,000 viewers, possibly. Like that's doubling their viewership. And if they're available in like twice as many homes, then maybe. But is there enough of a demand from the WWE audience that are watching NXT to tune in, or actually from the AEW audience to tune in and also watch TNA? Because the other thing to remember is there is an awful lot of wrestling available to watch. You've got 2 episodes of weekly AEW TV. You have 3 weekly episodes of WWE. Do you want to add like a 6th show to add to your wrestling week? Weekly, every single week? I just don't know if people have got enough time in their days. But maybe that's part of the +7, right? I was like, well, I'll get to it eventually.
Well, this all ties together to what I think is happening here. That's exactly what WWE want. They don't actually. I don't think WWE now care about harming their own audience. They are willing to drink the poison that also affects their enemy, because they just want to take views away from AEW.
Yeah.
And what you said earlier about the monopoly thing, I think is exactly right. That's why they're buying AAA, which is in another country, so those monopoly things are a lot harder to enforce when they're global.
Also, not using the word buying, they're acquiring.
Yeah, there's definite spins on language there as well. But they don't want to do that with TNA because that is in North America. They've just gotten out of the monopoly thing. And I don't think they want the headache of any monopoly inquiries. Not that that's realistically going to happen with Trump in the White House. He's not really pushing the antitrust agenda. But I think with WWE, they have a chess piece that really they control massively, because TNA is so reliant now on WWE. They have this chess piece that they can maneuver at will at AEW. Because if TNA get a TV deal in the States, yeah, that might dent a bit of AEW audience. But it also is one less place that AEW could potentially go in the future. But most importantly, globally. WWE are tied up with their global rights deals with Netflix. Huge money-making markets like India and Europe and us here in the UK. WWE can now no longer do those deals with local broadcasters. So AEW is in a perfect opportunity to come in, swoop in, take those deals, not just get loads of money, but get loads more exposure. Yeah. Because as we've seen with the Netflix numbers for WWE, there's nowhere near the level of viewership that you would get if you're just on a national TV station. So now WWE can use TNA, help TNA, build them up, not to buy them, but to use them to block AEW worldwide.
And actually, if you look back to the original Wednesday Night War between AEW and NXT, WWE's, and this was the report at the time, it was never about NXT winning the war. It was never about them beating AEW's numbers. It was just about taking numbers away from AEW. Because if, say, AEW did, actually about that sort of time, 900,000 viewers and NXT did 500,000 viewers, well, those are 500,000 viewers that aren't watching AEW Dynamite on that Wednesday. So that's exactly what they wanted to do. And actually, in the end, I think Vince got annoyed that they didn't win, because that's why he removed Triple H from the position he had in NXT. But the original vision for it was, you're not there to win, you're just there to harm their viewership. And if, TNA get a TV deal, and it's on a Wednesday night, and you've got a brand new Wednesday Night War with a WWE indoors. And we've seen what WWE will do when they are going up against AEW Dynamite. When they have NXT shows going against Dynamite, they load them up with their main roster stars. John Cena's going to be on the show. The Undertaker's going to be on the show to load up to hurt AEW's rating.
Yeah, so I guess prediction-wise, I think TNA will probably get a deal. Nowhere near what they want, but that doesn't matter because WWE will help them, I think. And we'll start. Yeah, I didn't even think of the TV. I think that would be huge, a huge mistake. But with the PLEs, I think you'll see these TNA PLEs, Bound for Glory. Yeah. Oh, let's Wrestle Dynasty weekend. Or
putting
things
TNA
like
shows on that way. I didn't even think of that. Because they put NXT shows, but let's start arranging TNA pay-per-views on that as well to try and hurt the pay-per-view buy rates or ticket sales and things like that. It's a shrewd move by WWE. It's a very smart business move by WWE in a way. And for TNA, I think what the diehards for TNA need to understand or need to come to a realization is that this is beneficial to TNA in terms of they are getting way more exposure. More people are talking about TNA than they have done since about 2010. Like, this is...
I don't agree, though, because I think that Hard to Kill early 2024 bit had the most people.
I still think there are more people talking about TNA now than they were even last year. I think this partnership has elevated the talk of TNA sort of like within wrestling circles, right? That's me personally. That's sort of like anecdotally maybe. But really, they are just another feeder system. Like, these are yeah, we've given Joe Hendry massive exposure on NXT. We're giving Mike Santana massive exposure on NXT. But the main goal is that they're going to go to NXT eventually. Like, Joe Hendry is going to sign with WWE when his contract is up. When Mike Santana's contract is up, if he stays as hot as he is, he's probably going to go to WWE as well.
Leon Slater.
Leon Slater is 100% going to go to WWE at some point. Like, as long as they can sort of keep him in there, maybe get him on an ID thing and sort of like, you know, keep him within the WWE bubble. That is what they're looking to do. Not only is it great for WWE, do you know what it also does? Removes a place where people can go and work. So if you leave WWE, it's like, well, it's really AEW or bust. Because I can't go to TNA because they're basically WWE. I can't go to AAA. It's basically WWE. And if you strike up a lot of these things around, I can't go to Noah. It's basically WWE. So you lose a lot of these other places that people can go and work. And that kind of makes people kind of stick within that WWE system a little bit longer, you know, while they've got the option.
Yeah, it's very Triple H. It's a lot more cerebral, subtle, behind the scenes puppet master stuff.
It's also a lot smarter than, you know, his original plan of just launching loads of NXT brands around the world. Because now he has NXT Mexico.
Yeah,
it's called AAA. Yeah, he's got NXT Japan. It's called Noah. It's like he had this vision. It did not work. So it's like, fine. We'll just work with them instead, and we're basically, I'm getting my global localization. I've just rebadged it.
Yeah.
So on the AEW thing, because when you did this as a bit of news the other day, that was like every other comment was, where was this anger when AEW was burying TNA? And which I've seen a lot of when people talk about the WWE TNA partnership, and I find it sort of a maddening take because, by TNA's own admission, AEW, the partnership that they had with AEW for that brief period of time, massively helped them. Like when they had Kenny Omega go across to Impact for pay-per-views during the pandemic, he massively increased buy rate numbers for them. Because of course he did. It's Kenny Omega going on to a TNA, to defend the TNA title. And eventually, you know, he drops that belt to an AEW talent in Christian Cage, but then Christian Cage goes across to Impact and he boosts up their numbers as well.
Yeah, I think if you go back, we were very excited when that first angle was done on Winter is Coming 2020. Go see us on Impact with Don Callis and Kenny Omega. I was like, what? But I was very vocal at the time, you know, in the months afterwards. Oh, this isn't as good as I thought it would be.
Because we thought it was going to be a TNA invasion angle.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that.
And I think you can see how AEW works with like the CMLL relationship at the moment and what they had previously with AAA and New Japan. I think AEW genuinely tries to have partnerships with the other promotion. And it does help them, but they're not gonna, you know, it's not this huge thing I think that could live up to the potential. WWE arguably does too much, but what is the cost? Because I never once thought AEW is going to drain TNA of life here.
They're looking to use that as a feeder system.
But I do think that's even with all the success and, you know, you can get a boost of numbers here to get a better TV deal. My concern, given how WWE has treated other promotions throughout history, is that when the multi-year partnership ends, or even before them, TNA is going to be a husk.
Yeah, and I should also, like, with the TNA and AEW partnership that they had, and I think you can compare to what they do, like you mentioned, with CMLL, with New Japan, AEW stars often beat their talent when they're on TV. Like, Tomohiro Ishii is not pinning AEW guys when he's on Dynamite or Collision. But at the same time, it's Tomohiro Ishii. That is, you know, he does that on the British indie circuit as well. It's like Rev Pro will bring Tomohiro Ishii in, and he can put over someone. Like, that's almost the power of Tomohiro Ishii. Or sometimes he'll win, sometimes he doesn't. And they do it with the CMLL guys as well. Like, AEW stars will win. So like, they are protecting their own stars and make sure they win. But they're never doing it to bury top talent. They're not bringing in Zack Sabre Jr., the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, to lose to Darby Allin on TV.
Yeah, in 2 minutes.
Like, you know, they're not having Hangman Page beat him in 1 minute on TV. If they bring in like a top champion, they will do what they can to make sure that top champion is protected, because that is cultivating a relationship and making sure that it's a tit for tat thing. The Mystico MJF thing. It's like, we got Mystico on TV. That means that next time MJF can go onto a CMLL show and do a match there, and that can help boost up your numbers as well. So you can have one of our top stars, and Mystico can beat him on that show. And
that whole episode of Dynamite in Arena Mexico was a homage to CMLL. You are right. I think AEW treats their partners with respect. I think WWE treats their partners with what's the maximum we can get out of them.
Yeah, I think it's always, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah. But yeah, who knows? Maybe TNA will be getting 500,000 views every week.
It's TNA, so you can never quite tell with them. Like, I do think, because Eric Bischoff was on Errol Helwani this week, making such mad Eric. I don't know why we still give this dude a platform, because I guess why you do, because he comes on and says mad things and you can get some headlines out of him. But he was like, oh yeah, if TNA get a better TV deal, they'll be the number 2 company in America. I'm like, yeah, what better person to ask what the state of TNA is than the man who did his best to try and kill that company because he's bad at what he does. But it's an insane take to make that if they got on TV, they will become the 2nd biggest promotion in North America. That is such a 90s way of thinking. It's like, if I just get on TV, it'll turn around this business.
They're already on TV.
Well, but if we just got on Monday nights, we would turn around this TNA business, because I think he's just got a very 90s attitude towards things. I don't think it is going to completely turn, but it will increase TNA business. And I think this WWE partnership overall will increase TNA DNA business. The end goal, though, is a very different thing. And I think the end goal is what it currently is now. You are the feeder system to NXT in the same way that Evolve is a feeder system for NXT. Like, they are just new territories to create people to eventually go to WWE.
Here's my question for the commenters. Tell me where you think TNA is at the end of 2025 and then at the end of 2026.
Interesting. It's a good one.
So I think they'll be in a good place by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know so much about 2026.
Yeah.
When WWE sucked them dry and has moved on to the next thing. Hey, GCW.
Can you imagine? No one has been able... TNA has survived everything.
Yeah.
TNA has survived Hogan. It's survived Billy Corgan. It has survived the pandemic. Can it survive WWE? This week's episode of AEW Dynamite, I thought, was fine. Good show. But serviceable.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed last week's more just because there were so many fun party matches.
Where was the party match this week?
Yeah, well, the Bucks. that's the sort of thing I'm not most invested in, but I was really enjoying their fall from grace. So I do think that's a story they should be telling every week, even if it's just a 2-minute backstage bit of them doing jobs worth things at the bottom of the roster.
I agree. And I think the other thing for me with this Dynamite episode is last week, I really thought Hangman Page nailing Jon Moxley with the buckshot lariat while Jon Moxley is clearly setting up his next feud with Darby Allin was the end of this. And we're just separating these two away. Moxley's going off to Darby Allin. Hangman's going off to find his next challenger as the AEW World Champion. But this episode and Collision have sort of brought them right back together. Maybe they didn't separate in the first place, just brought them back together. And they had a couple of angles on this show to set up a world title match between Moxley and Hangman Page with everyone barred from ringside for next week's Dynamite.
I don't so much mind that. I don't feel like that's, the next 3 pay-per-view cycles are going to be Hangman versus Moxley like it used to be in the Vince days. I feel like this is the epilogue to the great climax end at All In.
Yeah.
Next week when they have the match at Dynamite with no one at ringside, that is a definitive win for Hangman. Hangman goes off in the MJF direction, and whatever the rules of that contract are,
you're
gonna execute it?
I don't think they know.
Execute it or in the ring? What's that? Huh?
I agree with you. Next week is the epilogue. I just thought last week was the epilogue.
It could have been, yeah. But I guess this really ties up. It's one-on-one, everyone banned from ringside. And Mox can go off in a Darby direction and Hangman can go off on this direction. I don't mind it as a sort of narrative arc.
I'm excited for the match next week, no doubt.
Because it's a huge thing for TV as well.
Yeah, because the match they had at All In, even outside of all the Goo Goo and Gaga and the blood and guts and stuff, was a great match. I know they've had great matches in the past, so I'm really excited to see the match next week. As I'm saying, I thought last week was the epilogue. Turns out we've got another week of epilogue to do. Yeah, it's one of those 3-chapter epilogues.
Yeah. For the next 5 weeks, they're still in the Aragon Ballroom in Chicago, which just has a great looking atmosphere.
In the Muppet Theatre.
But the opening match was Hangman Page versus Wheeler Yuta. Pretty much not an enhancement match, but Hangman destroyed Yuta, 5 minutes and done.
Well, he should do. He's the world champion. Wheeler Yuta is the bottom of the rung of the Death Riders. This is set up from the angle they did on Collision, where the Death Riders took out and beat up Colt Cabana and bloodied him up. So Hangman's looking to get revenge. You can't be doing this. This is my AEW now. I'm the cowboy around here. You can't be doing this to people like Colt Cabana. So he went out there, beat up Wheeler Yuta. After they got the chain, punched Wheeler Yuta in the face and busted him open. Went to hang him and opted not to, just so he could tell Wheeler Yuta, and this is probably the next storyline beat for him, no one's coming out to save you. The Death Riders do not care about you.
Yeah, I love this character of Hangman. Well, I feel like we didn't get this in his first world title run, but he really feels like the sheriff. Mm-hmm. He is the guy you want to look up to, because the old Hangman would have probably killed, just straight up killed Wheeler Yuta. Yeah. Injected him in the face with some bubonic plague. But here, he's being the better man, and he's teaching this kid a lesson. Mm-hmm. Look, you should think about your decisions.
Yeah. There was a moment at the end of the show as well, where Wheeler Yuta, with the bandage around his head and being all woozy, John Moxley hugging him, giving him a kiss and everything. Like, no, we're all on the same team here. It's very much, we're going to be getting the Yuta split from this group at some point.
Because of the example Hangman is setting as a good representation of masculinity. And shout out to Taz, because Yuta raked the eyes, Hangman got on the apron, clothesline Jones over here. Taz, look, I don't think the time is the finish to do the flippant whatever Jones over here.
Buckshot Jones over here.
Lawn Dart Jones over here. I love it. I love it. I always pop for it. I don't think you should do it at the serious moments.
I think he's just doing it for Matthew now. We should but before that as well, MJF walked up to Hangman Page backstage. And again, this is more of that, like, what is this contract that you have got? Because I just don't think AEW really have... The match now, the Casino Gauntlet match, works. They've nailed down that format.
Kind of.
I just don't think they have nailed down what this contract actually is, in terms of, is it something you can cash in? Which I guess is what it is. But last week it was more like, no, you have to pick a time and date where you can cash it in. And about Fightful Select said they were like, actually, well, not even Fightful Select. Tony Khan said at the pro-show press conference, yeah, we're going to figure out what we're doing with these on TV. All right. I think you should probably have a plan in place for what these mean.
Even in a kayfabe world, it makes the promotion look inept. Oh, yeah, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
That doesn't put our performers in, sort of wrestlers in danger.
And now, speaking of the women's Casino Gauntlet winner, Athena was backstage with Billy Starks. I love these two together, and I love this act. And I'm glad that it's now on main roster TV, because Billy Starks is great. Athena is so good in this role. And Billy Starks was like, yeah, and I'm going to beat you. And Athena was like, no, you're not going to beat her, because it's a title eliminator match. Athena does not want Billy Starks getting a world title shot. You just got to go out there and hurt her. That's what our plan is. You're just going out there to hurt Tony Storm, because I'm going to then beat her for the world title.
I'm very taken with Billy Starks. I think this aura she's got it's like innocent, but she can be, she's heelish in the match later on.
Yeah, she's a heel.
You're like, but yeah, she is a heel, but I want to cheer her like a baby face.
Yeah.
And she's only 20, so yeah, very bright future.
Yeah. The t-shirt I'm currently wearing is older than both Leon Slater and Billy Starks. I found that I worked this out on the WrestleTalk news when I recorded it today, because I was making a joke about, and then Rory, who's doing a little bit of experience with us at the moment, I was like, oh, I think you're younger than the t-shirt I'm currently wearing is. We got an announcement that they're doing a tag title tournament to crown new number one contenders to the Hurt Syndicate for Forbidden Door, which we'll be seeing in London at the O2, and they have got 2 teams announced for it, with the rest of the bracket being TBA, TBA, TBA. And apparently that is because, at least I'm going to guess this is because, Colton Gunn got injured on Collision, which is terrible news because he only just got back from being out since February. And because of that, they've now having to pivot some of the Guns were going to be in this tournament. They've now got to pivot those plans. So I'm guessing that's why they're not announcing the other teams. But FTR and JetSpeed were the 2 teams that they have got announced, and they had a brilliant match.
Yeah, definitely match of the episode. Went through 2 commercial breaks, multiple Shark Week plugs.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just it was mostly the match broke down immediately. So there wasn't much tagging in and out. It was brawling all around the ring. They were both teams worked fantastically together.
The crowd was super hot for this as well. Oh yeah, I mean, I forgot to say this on the WrestleTalk news yesterday though, but it is a negative 5-star match because it was Shark Week. They did have Shark Boy there to promote the show, but did not have him on TV. So I don't know what Tony Khan. I think worst Booker of the Year.
Yeah.
Because it's
right there.
It's right there. But this match was great. It looked like Jet Speed were going to have the match won because Mike Bailey threw Cash Wheeler into the timekeeper's area and then wiped him out. And then Kevin Knight gets the roll up inside the ring. But in the end, Dax gets the roll up and Stokely Hathaway gives him the assist with the crutch to get the win. A fantastic match.
And we got a big angle afterwards as well. Copeland came out because he speared Stokely last week. That's why Stokely was on a crutch. And he revealed, I can't touch FTR, but I've made a deal with some people who can hurt people. And it's the Hurt Syndicate. They come down to brawl with FTR, and Copeland tries to spear Stokely, but he hits a security guard instead, the poor guy. And yet this is sort of, I think we're going to get a Hurt Syndicate versus FTR final at Forbidden Door. And I suppose Hurt Syndicate are now baby faces.
I guess so as well, because they have the bit later on with MJF. So I guess this is actually a good role for them as well, making them the modern day APA. You just go and you do business with MVP to have these guys as your backup. And they can just come out and always pound ass.
I feel like the sort of obvious thing to do would be FTR to beat Hurt Syndicate at Forbidden Door, and then All Out's in Toronto, is it? Then it can be Edge and Christian versus FTR for the tag belts in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, and actually you can do FTR versus Edge and Christian. You don't have to do it for the tag titles if you want to keep them on the Hurt Syndicate. But Hurt Syndicate taking on this sort of APA role feels very much like Tony Khan as an Attitude Era kid. Adam Copeland's right there, who was there with the APA. So, yeah, this makes total sense.
But the Dudleys and the Hardy Boys are in TNA now.
I know.
I think the reason I think Hurt Syndicate might lose is they would have had the belts 8 months by that point. They don't really have a good way to get them off of them. I think FTR are the only really established team that could now beat them credibly. And the MJF stuff that happened backstage afterwards makes me feel like Max is going to cost them the belts at Forbidden Door.
Yeah, could be. Well, the matriarchy were backstage, and Nick says that they're going to start making their point. They did their point verbally last week. Next week, they're going to make it physically to show how dangerous they can be now that they are uncaged. I think it's a very good line. John Moxley cut a promo. He's not going to bitch about losing the title. A mistake was made, and he is going to fix it. Tonight, we're going to find out who this new Hangman is.
Yeah, you know when Moxley just cuts the best promo you've ever heard? Yeah. And it's just a casual thing. This was one of those for me. I think it's subtly an incredible promo.
Yeah.
He talked about how you've got to do it again and again and again. And that's what Moxley, I think, wanted people to do when he was running roughshod over AEW.
Looking for people to step up.
It's like,
can you be the guy?
You beat me All In. Yeah. And I respect that. I congratulate you, Hangman. You were the better man. But you've got to be the better man over and over and over again. So let's see if you can. So I love this. The cowboy doesn't ride off into the sunset. You've got to stick around.
Speaking of the best man, Will Ospreay came out for a promo who said that he's been struggling with his neck for the last 10 months, and it's not through AEW that they've been making him go out and work. He's actually been keeping it a secret from everyone. He didn't tell people that he was hurting, but he went and got it checked out. He's got 2 herniated discs, but sounds bad, is treatable. He should be fine for Forbidden Door.
I'd be surprised if that's true.
Because it's
very close.
It's about a month away. Yeah. So he thanks Swerve. He's proud of Hangman, and he's coming for each of the dickheads in the Death Riders. And Swerve then hugs him on the ramp, and they pose together. I think it's a lovely thing to come out and say, yeah, guys, I've been dealing with this injury, and I'm going to be away for a little while I get it sorted out, but I'm hoping to be back for the next pay-per-view. You could have tied it into the story, though, because you literally had a storyline out for this if you got Pillmanized. So you could have tied this into a Death Riders thing of like, I've got to go away because of what the Death Riders did to me.
Yeah, I suppose they did. But they implied that, but they didn't really hammer it home.
Well, he said he's been dealing with neck issues for 10 months.
Yeah, but he said because of the Death Riders attack, I was in hospital, they did the MRI, and then this stuff was exposed. So, it could have been aggravated by the Death Riders, but I get your point. I just thought Ospreay comes across so sincere.
It's lovely.
The idea that he didn't tell anyone because, boys, We needed to bring the title back home.
Yeah. I had to see it through the finish line.
He is the best babyface in the business, like a pure babyface.
We've got a spooky promo from Tekla, Julia Hart, and Sky Blue, who have now named themselves the Triangle of Madness.
Death Triangle, now Triangle of Madness. It's another shape-based faction in AEW. They said the last thing you'll see is us three. Spooky
stuff. And then Renee interviewed Willow Nightingale, who wants a rematch with Tekla because she should have won the $100,000 last week, but Tekla stole it from her.
Life-changing money.
Well, I mean, it is. Could you imagine? Could you imagine just casually having handed to you $100,000?
The Gates Fagany won $200,000 on Collision.
Well, that is $100,000 each.
Yeah.
So, like, it's. my wife was talking about this. We're watching the Traitors US. We finished the 3rd season of it, and like the prize pot at the end of that was like $200,000. It's like, could you imagine just getting like split that between 2 people, $100,000
tax free? It's a prize.
It's like that. We joked like. It's not going to set us up for life, but it would take the pressure off a few things, wouldn't it? Like you wouldn't have to think about it for a long while.
Yeah.
Anyway, Renee interviewed the Hurt Syndicate, and MJF walked in to be like, "What's going on? Why are you helping Cope? You should be helping me win the AEW World Title." And Bobby Lashley grabbed him, threw him up to the lockers, and said, "I'm going to kick you out of this group." So that didn't last long.
Very sudden.
Yeah.
I was enjoying the MJF Hurt Syndicate stuff. I thought there's months in this act now before, because I don't feel like I've had time to settle into it for the eventual breakup to mean as much. So I don't know if they're rushing things or something's changed or this was always the plan. But yeah, I didn't love this.
Yeah, I agree. Tony Storm took on Billy Starks and won. Athena was watching from the balcony, and I really enjoyed Billy's performance in this match was great because every time she did a big move on Tony Storm, looked up to the balcony, looking for approval from Athena, being like, "Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right, boss?" I think her performance is so good in all of this. Storm then got the knees up off a swanton bomb and locked in the chicken wing to get the wing. Starks cracked Storm with the title afterwards. Athena and then told Athena, "Come down, we can win the title now." But then Alex Windsor ran down for the save because she and Athena are having a match for the ROH Women's Championship on Collision.
Bit janky, this angle, I thought. Billy threw Aubrey Edwards, the referee, out. And I think that was to delay the cash-in of Athena's contract. Because then Athena comes down, she's going to cash... And it was confusing because we don't know as viewers what the rules are and whether you can just cash in this contract.
There's the problem, right? And this is exactly what happened with Christian last year. And like the What Culture boys kept bringing this up, just be like, why establish what the real rules of this thing are? Like this is an albatross around the neck of the company. It was for a long time with Christian. So I think you just need to lay out. The brilliance of Money in the Bank is from the get-go, you know what the rules are. You've got 1 year to cash this thing in. It is a ticking time bomb. With AEW, it's like, it's a contract. You've got to execute this contract. Like last week, Athena was signing it and being like, "Oh, I know when I'm going to be doing this." As if you've got to write down the date in advance you're going to do it.
That's a good point. So then, if she's already filled that part out, how can she try and cash it in here?
But I don't know if she's had to fill that part out because what are the rules?
Also, Alex Windsor runs down to make the save, but you're like, wouldn't you want Athena to suddenly win the AEW World Title? Because then,
well, she's a babyface.
You could fight her, and if you beat her, which you want to, for the ROH Women's Title, you've got a valid claim to go, and I want a match for your AEW one.
She's the, babyface, man.
I thought this didn't work for me at all, but the stuff you said about Billy, that she always is looking to Athena for approval, I think that's actually... I figured it out when you said that. That's what makes her work. Mm-hmm. And it's why she feels like such a babyface despite being a heel, because she's a babyface who's been led astray. She's naive. She's innocent.
Yeah. And they've actually split this act up a couple of times through Ring of Honor as well, because I think everyone thought that Billy was going to win the title last December against Athena. I think it was last December. But they're still together. And actually, I think they are better together. We had Swerve Strickland versus Hechicero. And, I should have seen this coming. It's one and a half of these is going for Kazuchika Okada's Unified Championship. And the other one is the number one contender to Bandito's ROH Championship. So this was only ever going to end in DQ. And I don't know why I didn't see it coming. So I just got annoyed when it did.
Yeah, a bit of a lame finish. Just Lance Archer just walked in and caused the DQ when Swerve was about to hit the stomp. Good match before then.
Really good.
Really nice because it Hechicero's submission style versus Swerve's, whatever Swerve's style is, it's so unique, the sort of dance mixed with athleticism. But then, Bandido and Brody King ran down assorted baby faces, brawl off with them. And Okada hits Swerve with a chair, but then Swerve reverses and chases Okada off.
Yeah. We had a recap of Ricochet and I think now the renamed GOA beating down AR Fox on Collision, and they say that the Guns are shooting blanks in a backstage promo, although that feud now's going to be on ice for a little bit. You will respect or fear us.
Good heel act.
Good heel act. MJF then came out for a promo, and Tony Schiavone says he's not hurting people. The only thing that's hurt around here is he's butt hurt. And Taz just very calmly replied, "That's not nice."
But hurt Jones over here.
He said he doesn't need Bob to help get his title back. He also doesn't need to execute this contract to beat Hangman Page for the title. He's going to win it regardless.
Yeah, he's going to do it in this ring. What? So execute mean that it's 24/7 rules?
Well, yeah, I guess the briefcase is 24/7 rules, really, isn't it? The Money in the Bank briefcase.
No one's ever cashed it in a McDonald's, though.
Well, that's their mistake.
Well,
I suppose you do have to do it in a ring. It's not like the hardcore title.
It's very confusing. They need to sort it out. But
Mark Briscoe comes out and he says, "You stole the win from me at All In," and he wants a match with Max for next week. And Max says, "No." He says, "The thing is, Mark, when the pressure is on, you don't win. People like Mark. People love Mark Briscoe. People really like you. You've got silly hair. You've got no teeth. You've got a funny southern accent. People really like you, but you're just a clown to them." Not even Mark Briscoe fans would say he's a top guy. I thought it was a really, really nice line. "You're the circus clown we parade around." Is the other thing he said. He goes, "But I used to know a guy from Delaware who people did respect. And Mark, people will never respect you the way they respected Jay."
Mm-hmm. Mark runs down, Max runs away, and it turns into the Mark Briscoe versus Claudio Castagnoli main event. But Mark Briscoe came out when he first interrupted, and he got the kosher pickle chant going. He did a bit of comedy about sticking the mic really far up MJF's ass.
I thought we were getting a different Mark after last week's promo.
I was disappointed. I thought last week, really the Casino Gauntlet loss was the gear change into serious Mark because of the stuff MJF has said.
Yeah.
It took a lot of the tension out of the feud.
I would agree. And maybe next week they will do and now but you've kind of already done that bit. You've already hit this point. You didn't need to do it again, I guess. But Mark and Claudio had a very hard-hitting match, which I very much enjoyed. Darby appeared in the crowd to stare down Claudio at one point. Mark made his comeback. Claudio kicked out the froggy bow, and then he got a near fall off the European uppercuts, but Mark got a cradle for the win.
Yeah, I didn't think this was a good bit of booking, to be honest, in terms of the match being booked as the main event. Because MJF says in his promo, "You're not a top guy," and then the main event is Mark Briscoe wrestling Claudio Castagnoli. I love Claudio, but these really are two mid-carders.
Yeah.
So I think the idea is to elevate Mark Briscoe here. Mark should be in there along John Moxley. Or some huge name.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those. It was booking by convenience because you had the MJF promo here, which then can have Mark come out, which means we can do the Mark Briscoe match. But also we want to do the Moxley Hangman thing at the end of the show. So we have Claudio in this match. Vis-a-vis, that's the main event of this show. But it didn't feel like it was two top guys who should have been the main event of this show.
Yeah. If this was my GM mode, poor booking I would get.
A poor finale.
Poor finale. A good match, though. I'm just saying, in terms of star power, it wasn't there.
So Shafir then attacked Mark after the match, and Moxley asked Hangman, is he really the champion just because he has the belt? Let's see if he is a champion. And Hangman Page comes out showing absolutely no fear. He said, "I'm going to prove to you, Mox, that I am ready for this pressure." And he challenges him to a title match next week with everyone barred from ringside.
Yeah.
And this time, you're the challenger and I'm the champion.
I thought it was badass. It's this great way of Hangman Page being a role model in a good, positive masculinity way.
I very much enjoyed this. But I thought it was a totally fine, serviceable edition of AEW Dynamite.
Yeah, no killer angles, and also no killer matches like the party match the previous week.
That's it. I said in the review yesterday, it had good matches and good promos, but it was not like must-see TV. Next week, though, you've got the world title match, so that'll probably be a much bigger episode.
Should we see what people said last week in the comments? This was a funny one from Jesse Dunn. It would have been so amusing if Ollie and Luke spent so much time talking about Seth Rollins and his injury angle that they ran out of time and couldn't discuss Goldberg.
I cannot believe we didn't think of that joke.
I think we should do this on the news. I think, like, at the start, we should tease and a huge story about Goldberg coming up. And every episode, so we're out of time for Goldberg.
Yeah, the problem is the Goldberg's not a draw for our audience. It doesn't feel like
no, but we wouldn't put it in the title. We'll just say it in the rundown at the start.
Yeah, very good joke though, Jesse.
Drip Soup. This was because I was talking about Nobody, the movie, last week. This is a fun bit of trivia, if true, Drip Soup. Funny you should mention Nobody. My mum's house was used as the main character's neighbour's house. Also, because there was a freak snowstorm right before they started filming, I heard they nearly changed the film set to being Christmas time and they were bringing in Christmas trees. The snow didn't last though, so I don't think they went through with it.
Haven't seen the movie, so I can't say for certain. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And finally here, we were talking about how much wrestlers do just tell you everything they shouldn't do when you meet them generally.
Yeah. Love a chat with wrestlers.
Yeah. Vampire Danny on Spotify has given his example of this. To add to the wrestlers love to talk conversation, I once ran into the Young Bucks before AEW was a thing. It was outside a Comic-Con in LA, and they talked to me very nicely and casually told me about their plans for their all-out pay-per-view, when it wasn't known about at all at the time. I was shocked at how casually they told me. It's like if James Gunn tells you the spoilers for the upcoming Batman films and walks away, knowing you can't leak the info since you're not media. Like, who's going to believe you?
Exactly right. Like, and actually, in Vampire Danny, there might be people watching this be like, yeah, that never happens.
Yeah.
Because because if you're the only person they've told.
But I do think that is sometimes our experience with a lot of wrestlers, where they just... It doesn't matter if you're a host of WrestleTalk or if you're just a fan.
They will just say things. But I mean, okay, so I'm not going to name any names, but there were last year over All In Weekend, I was getting the sense that I was being told a lot of things by people that was definitely trying to see if I would put it in the WrestleTalk news or if I would then go and tell other people, or I would like text Sean about it or something like that. Yeah. But a lot of people were like, oh yeah, no, this thing's definitely happening. Oh yeah, you know that guy? Yeah, that thing's definitely happening. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. 100% I think they were doing it to just either mess with me or
test you.
Or test me.
And that person was, of course, Shane McMahon.
Oh, if only. Talk about... I was messaging someone yesterday being like, because you know the Bryan Danielson did that interview where he was just like, I think apples are tree semen. And then Nikki Bella rather, she was on What Do You Want to Talk About? And she was like, oh yeah, he just thinks dick jokes are hilarious. Loves boner jokes. I was like, I think Bryan Danielson would be my dream interview, and I would not talk about wrestling at all.
Yeah.
I would talk to him about everything else other than wrestling. I think the only other interview I'd love to do is Shane McMahon.
Oh, that'd be so funny.
I want to talk about what his plans were for the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. What was your vision?
What was your vision?
And that whole road to WrestleMania.
Yeah. I would love to... Do you remember how they used to do the kayfabe commentaries thing of like the WCW timeline? Then have Kevin Nash being like, yeah, here's like what this means. And as well, Jim Cornette would be like, yeah, you do this and do this. I want to do a Shane McMahon. You get the book of AEW. What would you have done?
Yeah. Have you got any recommendations before we get out of here?
I do, actually. I'm going to quickly double check the author's name so I don't get it wrong.
Oh, it's a book.
It is a book. I read a book in 3 days.
Well, you got drunk, didn't you? You told me that you went and got hammered.
Well, that's the thing.
By yourself.
I didn't get hammered, but what happened was that I had the day off last Friday because you and I were taking some time off after All In, and I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself today. And so my wife was like, why don't you just go down to Hastings? And I was like, yeah, I think I will do. I was like, well, I could go down there and I only have 1 drink, so I'm going to drive. He said, get the train. I was like, then I will do. So at about like 11 o'clock, I got the train down to Hastings, and then I just drank on my own all day. But I was having lovely craft beers that are like sort of like 4% beers. So I was just casually drinking throughout the day and read my book in the sun. It was a beautiful, lovely day. And then I went to go see The Fly at the Electric Palace.
What a film.
What a film. Hosted by Emily Booth, who I know from two things. Well, I mean, I know her from being the Scream Queen host that she is. But for me, she is the person who hosted one of the DVD extras on the Evil Dead trilogy box set that came out. And she was also one of the three girls who hosted Bits in 1999, which was Channel 4's like late night video game show, which I absolutely love. It got replaced by Thumb Bandits. But anyway, the book that I was reading was by Amy Twigg, and it's called Spoilt Creatures, which is a story about a woman in her 30s who's just got out of a bad relationship, and she's had a bit of a lost end. She's now moving back home with her mum. She's in this dead-end job, and she stumbles upon this women's commune that is in the local village, and she finds her way going in there and trying to win the approval of this sort of like overarching, controlling person in Blythe. And she moves to Blythe Manor, and it's set across like the summer of 2008 that she's there, the spring and summer of 2008 she's there, and in 2018, 10 years after, what happened. And so like the Netflix documentaries that are being made about the experiences of Blythe Manor. It's very, very interesting. I think it's called like Blythe or Blythe House or something like that.
A fiction.
Yeah, it's fictional. Yeah, but it's very good.
It's a work.
It's a work.
It's not a shoot story.
Amy Twigg is a superb writer. It's her debut novel, and she was an excellent writer. I also think she's friends with Dan Layton, which
cool.
should come as no surprise, because Dan Layton just turns out knows everyone. It's like, I'm a big fan of Tom's. I was like, yeah, I know him. He's like one of my best friends.
He's my flatmate.
Yeah, it's like, I really love the Attitude Era podcast. Like, I went to university with all those guys. He just knows everyone that is cool. I don't think I loved the ending of the book, but I did very much enjoy it along the way.
This isn't my recommendation, but I'm reading the Odessa Files, which is a 70s book by Frederick Forsyth at the moment. He wrote Day of the Jackal. And most of the book is people waiting around for phone calls. They get on the phone. Okay, I'll call you back at 4 p.m. Make sure you've got the information. I called him back at 4 p.m. I was like, that's how conversations used to be.
Yeah,
There's no texts. My recommendation is Cheek Face. I talk about them a lot on Monday Night War. They're one of, I think they're my favorite newest band, because I feel like my musical taste did just stop around 2010. Yeah, where like my favorite bands, that Arcade Fire, that LCD Sound System,
and Weezer.
They're Weezer stuff that there's no new bands in there. But Cheek Face, that I think they're 2018 they were formed. They're genuinely one of my favorite bands now. Saw them on Sunday. They were so fun. And they're sort of a spoken word in the style of Ian Drury or some parts of LCD Sound System. And it's very witty.
I'll give it a bit of a musical recommendation as well. Rustage, who very recently became a Patreon backer for WrestleTalk. And I had a conversation with him yesterday as part of his Patreon perks. And he was like, yeah, I'm a rapper. He tours the US. He does a lot of stuff with Megaran. He's a nerdcore rapper.
Amazing.
And I listened to a couple of his tracks yesterday, and I really liked it. I think he says, like, it's probably not going to be your musical taste because you're, this new metal kid. I'm like, hey, my musical taste is a broad church. And I really enjoyed it. So check out Rustage on Spotify and on YouTube.
If you want just one track, though, to listen to for Cheek Face, I would recommend Listen to Your Heart, No, which is very funny. But yeah, that's all we've got time for. Please go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk, because we've got loads of Patreon exclusives this weekend, which include the rise and fall of the Nexus bragging rights after Hell in a Cell goes up on the YouTube channel here for 3-4 hour long podcast there, and Brainbusters goes live on Sunday, and there's a Patreon exclusive episode of that too, which was loads of fun with SoCal Val, Luke, Sat, Sullivan, Adrian. So yeah, you're gonna want to go over there to enjoy that over the weekend. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. There's been Luke and DAD. Jam that jam.
We're off to see Fantastic Four now. Bye.